Hello, in this video, we're going to take a look at some examples of two-step equations. So let's get started. This first one we have is 3x plus 5 equals -7. So that means 3 times a number plus 5 is going to equal 17. So we need to figure out what is that number to make this equation true. So the first thing we're going to do with any of these equations is we are going to draw a line down from our equal sign. What that does is that lets us remember that whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. So don't forget the do-do rule. Whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. So looking at this equation, I am noticing that I have -17 over here on the right, and -17 is just a regular plain old number. And then on the left, I have 3x, which has a variable. So I want to try and get all of my variables on one side and all of my plain regular numbers on the other side. So since I already have a plain regular number over here with no variable, that's where I'm going to try and get all of my plain regular numbers. So to do that, I need to find a way to eliminate this 5 over here. How can I get rid of the 5 on the right side? So I'm noticing that this is a plus 5. That means it's a positive 5. So what is the opposite of positive 5? If you thought -5, then you're correct. So I am going to subtract 5 from both sides of this equation. So when I do that, over here, 5 minus 5 is 0. So those are eliminated. That's 0, so that's gone. And then all I have left over on the left side is 3x. So I'm going to put 3x there. Now over here, on the right, I have -17 minus 5. So if I think about my number line, if here's 0 and here's -17, if I'm subtracting 5, that means I'm going to go back 5 more. So we want to think about, what is this number? What is 17 minus 5? -17 minus 5, we would end up at -22. Okay, and so now my equation says 3x, so 3 times a number equals -22. So now our final step is to isolate the variable. And when we say this word isolate, that means to get it alone, all by itself. We want to get this variable x all by itself. To do that, we have to think about what is the opposite of multiplying by 3, or what is the inverse of multiplication. That would be division. So we are going to divide both sides by 3, and we use a fraction bar to show division. So over here, when we have 3x divided by 3, our 3 divided by 3, that simplifies to 1. So we're just left with 1x, which is the same as x. And then over here, -22 divided by 3, since that doesn't divide evenly, we could leave that as an improper fraction. So we're just going to leave our answer as -22 thirds. And that is our answer. And if we want to check that, we could come back up here, plug -22 thirds into x. 3 times -22 thirds would be -22. And -22 plus 5 is -17. So this is our answer. Here's another one. This one looks similar, same numbers, but they're in a little different order, and we got some different signs. Let's see how those signs changes affect our problem. So first thing I'm going to do is draw my line down the middle so I can remember the do-do rule. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. And now again, I have a plain number, a variable, and a plain number. So I want to get all of my plain regular numbers over here to the right. So I'm looking at this 5, um, and I'm noticing this minus sign here. So you might think, oh, -3, I should do the opposite of that and add 5. Um, we want to look at the sign in front of every number. So this negative, this goes with the 3. This is really saying 5 plus -3x. So this 5 is not negative. This 5 is positive. So we need to think about what is the opposite of a positive 5. The opposite of a positive 5 is -5. So we are going to subtract 5 from each side. And over here, when I do positive 5 minus 5, that eliminates, that is 0. So all I'm left with now is -3. So I'm going to bring my negative and -3x. So -3 times a number is going to equal 17 minus 5, which is 12. And now for my final step, I need to do the opposite of multiplying by -3, which is dividing by -3. And over here, when I have -3 divided by -3, that is 1. So I'm left with 1x equals 12 divided by -3. A net positive divided by a negative is a negative, so it's -4. You could leave it written like this, but this is the same as x equals -4. 1x and x are the same thing. And then I can check my answer. 5 minus 3 times -4. Let's see if this equals 17. 5 minus -12. That would be 5 plus 12, which is 17. So the answer checks out. Remember, with these equations, we can always check our answers. All right, let's keep going. This one, again, we have the same numbers, same variable, but we've got it looking a little different. Noticing here, we no longer have 3x. We have x over 3. This means x divided by 3. This fraction sign is another way to show division. All right, so let's go ahead and start getting all of our numbers on one side. So here I'm noticing my 17 is on the left. So I'm going to start here with my -5. I need to think about the opposite of -5. The opposite of -5 is +5. So I'm going to add 5 to each side. When I do that over here, I get 22 equals x divided by 3. Now we have to think about what is the opposite of dividing by 3. Remember, we always want to do the inverse operation. The opposite of dividing by 3 is multiplying by 3. So I'm going to multiply this side by 3. That means I'm going to multiply this side by 3. And here I'm showing multiplication in 2 different ways, just so you can see different ways to write it. You can use multiplication with a dot or with parentheses. When I multiply x over 3 times 3, these 3's simplify to 1, because really what's happening here, if I have x over 3 times 3, that's the same as x over 3 times 3 over 1, which would be 3x divided by 3, and then 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I'm left with just 1x on this side, and 3 times 22 is 66. So I have 66 equals x. And we can check that work over here. 66 divided by 3 is 22. 22 plus -5 is -17. So my answer checks out. One final example here. We're going to draw a line down the middle. I am going to start with what? What would you start with here? If you said adding 5, we are on the same track. Let's go ahead and add 5 to both sides there. -5 and +5 are opposites, so that's eliminated to 0. I'm left with x divided by -3 equals 22. And now here I am going to multiply by -3. My -3 and my -3 simplify to 1. And so I'm left with 1x. I need to multiply this side by -3. I get -66. And I can check my work. -66 divided by -3 is +22. And then +22 plus a -5 is +17. So my answer does check out. X equals -66. All right, that is my video on two-step equations. I hope this was helpful. If you need to go back and watch something, go ahead and do that. You can pause the video. You can copy these down in your notebook, whatever's going to be helpful for you to help you remember the steps of a two-step equation.